learned Java, WebDriver, JUnit, or TestNG, isn't it? We learned TestNG. So we learned one programming language and an automation tool and testing framework support software called as TestNG. So we'll put together all these things and we'll create a framework so that we can achieve this testing in an effective way. We can maintain our tests easily. So what is a framework actually? How does it look like? So why do we need to do these frameworks? So let me see if I got a diagram of it so that I can explain you clearly what is what. Alright, so what we do in a framework is we have something called as base class. Okay. We are going to design a framework called as data driven framework. So the word data driven means the data drives the whole testing activities and the data is stored in Excel sheets. Okay, so from those Excel sheets we'll access the data and we'll run the test, we'll stop the test, we'll skip the test, we can do whatever we want using those Excel sheets. And I am not expecting you to be a master in designing this framework, because your work is you'll be only working in a framework. You won't be really developing frameworks at this stage, but you should really have idea how it works, what is what and all. Sorry. So this is a typical data driven framework. Here we have a main class called as base class. Okay. Yeah, this is our base class. So to the base class we have a config folder. Oops. Okay, this is better. We have a config folder in which we'll configure our test site, test URL, what browser to use and all will configure in this config properties files. There are two properties files actually. One is config.properties and other one is or.property, object repository.properties. In this config we'll store, oops, I can't see the pointer at all. Why is it? Okay, so in this config we'll have the URL, browser and other main configurations which are common for the whole testing. And in or.repository we'll maintain all the XPaths or IDs of the elements which are available in your site, so that you don't need to go into the code and change it everywhere. You can just change it at one place and it reflects everywhere. Anyway, you'll see it in action. So until then we'll just see what are the different parts, and you'll have another package where you'll write your actual tests. This is where you write your actual tests, but this base class controls the entire testing activity. Okay, and you have another package where it will send emails. It will take all these reports and send emails to you. So we'll have reports, we'll have screenshots. Whenever a test is failed, it will take the screenshot so that you'll know what the bug is and where the bug is. Okay, and we have another utility folder where you can write small utility functions like login, logout and all. And we have logs. Logs are nothing but it will just log each and every activity. Whatever activity you do, it will log. It is something similar to reports, but this is more technical stuff. And we have something called as POI API. Using this API we'll connect our Java program to the Excel sheets. Okay, so this is in a nutshell about our framework. How we will achieve it, we'll see step by step. Okay, right. So let us start designing our framework from scratch. So what do I need? I just need a new Eclipse project. Let me say new. To save time, we'll take existing. Shall I create in this workspace, or okay, let me create in the same workspace. New project. I'll call it data driven framework. Okay, in this framework, now what we are going to do is create several packages. So as we discussed, what packages we need? I need a config package, so I'll right click and new package. I'll create a config package. I'll create one more package called as test. I'll create one more package called as utilities. Okay, fine. So let us open our document. That is framework, isn't it? We are looking into framework. Where do we have framework? Yeah. So what we did, we created test packages. Yeah, we did test package. We should create a class called test base class. So we'll create the base class now. I'll right click test package, say new, and create class, and I'll call this class as base class or test base class, whatever you call. Let me call it test base class. Okay, and we don't need any public static void in it. Okay, so what do we have in this test base class? We have initializations. So we'll initialize so many things over here, but before that we'll go to this config package, and we'll create two files called as config.properties and or.properties. So to save time, instead of creating them, let me copy and paste those files. So let me import an existing framework, probably from some other work, not work. Data driven framework, copy, and I'll paste it somewhere. Okay, so I'll import this existing framework into my workspace. How to import? Go to file, import, and go to general and existing project into workspace, and just go and select your project. Where is it? It's in desktop, and it is called data driven 830 batch. This is not yours, old other batches framework. So why I copied it is to copy some files from it. So what files are those? So I have this config.properties and or.properties. So I'll copy this config.properties and or.properties into my config folder. You can create it. How to create it? Right click, new, file and say or.properties and write all that whatever is there in it. Now I'll just copy paste instead of writing. So what do we have in or.properties? What are all these? These are nothing but, if you go to gumtree.com, XPaths of home page or login page. I think I was explaining about login page. So if you go to login page, XPath of all this stuff, login link, logout link. So this is login link and logout link you will get when you log out. This is login username input. So input boxes I kept together, and if you want to register all the registration, first name, last name, everything I already copied. So if you keep copying now, it takes time. You know how to copy a XPath, isn't it? Do you know or not?
Yes.
Yeah, using Firebug, which you've been doing since very long. So I copied all of them into a single space so that I can just use this name and work on it instead of always pasting this. So I'll show how I did that in a bit. And I have one more file called as, you can create one more file here that is called as config.properties. So that one I'm just copying and pasting it. So what do we have in config.properties? So if you open it, I have two things. One is the site name and the other one is what browser to use. So if I give Chrome, it will open Chrome. If I give Firefox, it will open Firefox. How it will open? We'll write that code now. Okay, right. So back to the test base class. Okay, so what do we have in our test base class? As I said, we need to initialize a lot of things over here. So first we need to initialize these properties files. We need to connect to these files. How do we do that? So we first write public static properties config is equal to null and public static properties or is equal to null. So what we are doing is we are creating global variables. If you remember global variables can be accessed anywhere, isn't it? So that's why we are giving this public and making these variables global and assigning it to null. Null means it doesn't have anything inside it right now, but we'll connect it to these files, these properties files, so that it will have all this data inside it. So what you need to do is, after writing this, just import java.util. Okay, that's it. So the next thing what you need to do is you need to really initialize it. So how do we initialize it? We'll write a function called as public void, probably I can make it okay, public void, I'll call it initialize okay. In this you start defining these properties. How do we define? There is a simple two-step process. So first I will connect to the config property file. How do I connect? So you already defined what config it is. Here I am just saying new properties. This is nothing but it is equal to, you can write the same new properties over here. Okay, but why you are writing here is you just made it global over here and you are using that variable or object over here. Okay, and then you'll create a new file input stream. Let me format it, and you should also import this java.io, or else use Control Shift O so that it downloads all of those. And it is showing some error over here, so let us see what is it. So it will add throws declaration to this, so don't worry about it, and it will add throws declaration to it. It keeps adding things, so don't worry about it. It knows that it may create some exceptions and all. Okay, so what we are doing here is, I just said config is equal to new properties and activated this config object. Now I want to connect this object to the config files where I had this config.properties file, so that I can access the test site name and the browser name. Okay, right. So I gave file input stream and created a file input stream called as fn is equal to new file input stream, and inside it you need to give the path. You need to give the system.get property user directory and the path of the config.properties. So what is the path of the config.properties? So if you see C:user Kiran workspace data driven framework config.properties, this is the path, this is the actual path. Okay, so I'll comment it over here. This is the actual path. Okay, but why am I giving only /user config config.properties? I'll show you in another test file. We'll create a sample class to demonstrate this, and I'll call this as simple tests or something. So I'm just showing this to show what does that statement do. Okay, so what was our path, earlier path? This was our path, isn't it? So you can understand from here: source folder, config folder, config.properties file, config.properties file. But the rest of the thing may change from system to system. If you copy the same project to some other system or some other folder somewhere, this will change, isn't it? This will not remain as the same thing. So what we are doing is, we are just trying to get the existing folder where the project is in, and we are trying to add this extra thing to that, and we are connecting this one. For example, the same line, if I copy here and print it, where is it? Yeah. I'll just try and print it. So if I say system.out.println and I paste this, what do you get? So it says there are errors in the project, 1, 2, extra bracket, run as Java application. So you got the output here. So what is the output?
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. Okay, so if I copy the output and paste it, it will be exactly the same, isn't it? Here you may find it these slashes as forward slashes. I'll tell you why do we use it. These slashes as forward slashes. That is because Java will only understand double slash. It won't understand single slash. It will take this slash s as an escape character, and it will do something else. Slash s means something, slash c is something, slash c is again something for Java. So that's why we are giving double slashes, to make it understand that we are giving the path. So you know this source config and config.properties, source config config.properties. The rest of the path is depends on what system are you in and what folder are you in. It will automatically get generated by what? By using the system property called as system.get_property user.directory. So it will print user directory, whatever directory you are in, it will print. So what did we do? Sorry. Okay, it just gave the directory which we are in. Data driven framework, until our project it will print. Okay, so yeah, now we know that how to navigate to our properties file. We connected it to our properties file, and we just need to use one more statement to load it, config.load, and this file input stream is connected to this config.load. Now we are officially connected to this config.properties file. That's it. And the same thing we need to do for one more file, or.properties. So it is the same stuff. I'll just copy paste it. Only small difference here is, instead of fn we'll call it something else, because you can't have same object name with same variable or object name with for two things, isn't it? So I said fn1 and we loaded fn1, exactly the same. But here you'll write or.properties, here you'll write config.properties. So make sure you exactly give the right case also. or.properties, or is small case, so we'll make it small. Well, that's it. We have config.properties and we have or.properties. What do we do next? So we'll initialize the WebDriver. You know this stuff very well. So what did we do here? Give me 1 second. Okay. So before doing this, what do we need to do? We have to add WebDriver to our project. Okay, so give me 1 second. This driver, I'll make it driver instead of dr. There is some small change in your document in this file. I used driver and dr two objects. Here I'm using only driver because you know driver. So but it still shows you an error because driver is not yet defined anywhere, isn't it? So we'll define it on the top of it as public, so that what happens? It will become the global variable. So public static WebDriver driver is equal to null. Okay, so WebDriver, it doesn't know what WebDriver is. We need to import the okay, so it imported everything. So it is nothing but we just wrote WebDriver driver is equal to, what do you write here? New Firefox driver or new Chrome driver or new Internet Explorer driver. The same thing we wrote here. If config.getProperty browser equals to Firefox, that means in this config.properties, this browser is equal to Firefox, it will open driver is equal to new Firefox driver. Else if config.getProperty browser equals Internet Explorer, it will open Internet Explorer. If Chrome, it will open Chrome driver. Okay, but for Internet Explorer and Chrome driver, what you need to do? You need to add one more additional line on top of it. If you remember, what is that? To add the path path of the Chrome driver, isn't it? So we'll try and get the path of the Chrome driver. If I have, do I have Chrome driver? Yes, I have Chrome driver. So if you do, you remember, if you run it, it will say you can give it. First let us try and run it with Firefox, or you can just copy paste from our first class or second class. We have that, isn't it? So for Chrome driver, we'll write this statement before driver. So we are just pointing it to the driver and we'll give the correct path. So we always need to give double slash, as we discussed while giving the path, and c:/webdriver / Chrome driver. Fantastic. Yes, and we'll go back to our list. So what to do next? This is not the. So what to do next? We created test packages, we created test base class, we created config package, we created config.properties, we created over.properties. We should create util package, and we should create a utility class in it, and we'll create a login test and we'll try to run that test. Okay, so
ఇంటర్నెట్ ఎక్స్ప్లోరర్ పాత్ కూడా
ఇవ్వాలి మనం ఇప్పుడు మనకు తెలుసు కదా,
ఓకే
మనకు తెలుసు కదా టైం వేస్ట్ అని ఇవ్వట్లేదు. Okay, so we have couple of things here. Properties we added, WebDriver we added. Forget about this event firing WebDriver, and there is one more global variable we'll take for called as is logged in. This variable is to just see whether someone is logged in into the Gumtree site or not. Okay, you can add it later, but I'll forget it, so I just added it. So this is until here. It is initialize function. Here we'll write one more function called as get object. We'll write one more function called as get object. So all this we wrote keeping in mind, I think we need to write something else over here. One more if statement here. So all this should be under if driver is equal to null. So if you come here, this entire initialize function should be if driver is equal to null. That means if there is no driver loaded, then do all this stuff. Okay, so what do? We go to the initialize function top, and here we write if driver equal to null. So initially first time the driver will be anyway equal to null, so that the following thing happens. So you can keep this in brackets, always good for you, and is equal to, you'll compare it with double equal to, and this bracket will take it until the end and keep it here. So it's inside initialize function, so we'll keep it here. Okay, so as I said, we'll write one more function and then create our utility folder. So the other function I'm calling it as So I'm calling that function as get object. What I'm taking is I will take an XPath key. XPath key is nothing but this one, login link or logout link or login username input. All these are XPath keys. Like I call it XPath key, you can call it whatever you want. Okay, I will supply XPath key to this function. Then what it will do is it will find an element by that XPath key and it will return that element. See, the return type I gave it as web element. Why I am doing this is I don't need to simply always go and write driver dot find element by dot XPath and all these things. It is very big task, isn't it? Instead of that, I can just say get object login link and it will give me login link object. Simple, very simple. And why did I keep it in try catch block? Sometimes if you don't find that object, what happens? The test will terminate abruptly, isn't it? While you're running the test, if you don't find an object in between, the test stops. But this is in real time. If you have a framework and if test stops, you won't always sit in front of it, isn't it? It should run by itself automatically. So I don't want the test to just abruptly stop in between, but I want it to report the error saying that the object is not present and continue with the rest of the test or the next test or whatever you want. You can write that code in here. That's why I gave it in try and catch block. Try this. If there is an element, just return that element. If there is no element, then no problem, go into this catch block and execute whatever we have in this catch block. So I'm returning null. So if the object is not found, it will say null. If you want, you can print something as well. So I'm just importing web element and this by. That's it. Did you understand the reason of this and did you understand the code? It is just a simple function, public static function with return type as web element. You saw functions with return type as string and integer. In the same way, we have return type as web element over here. It will return an element. By XPath, it will find an element. For example, it will find a text box and it will return the text box so that you can do anything, whatever you want with that text box. You'll see when we use that, you'll see. That's it. Fantastic. So you already know the config file and properties file you saw. So config.properties and over.properties. You have two things, key and value. This is called as key and this is called as value. Key value pairs or hash table or dictionary. You call it key value pairs or hash tables or dictionaries when you have a value, a key and a value. Okay. So let us create a new class called test_util in test base class. Util class, util package. I'll create a new class called as test_util. Why do we need this class? We will just write some utility functions inside it. Okay, so we don't need any of this. So in this class, we also need to use the driver and other things, isn't it? And also we declared something called as is logged in. Do you remember? Is logged in. We need to use this one as well. To use all these things, we need to inherit the base class. How to inherit the base class? Just write extends. What is our base class? This one, test base. So the class which we just wrote, we are extending it into the utility class. Clear until here? Please stop me if any doubts. Okay. So now what do we do is we'll write a small function to just log in. So where is it? I'll copy the complete thing and explain you bit by bit. So I just wrote a function called as do login, public static void do login, and it is taking two parameters, username and password. Okay, and throws exception it will get automatically while we write this get object things. So first what we are seeing is if logged in, if is logged in, we are just checking whether it is logged in or not. If it is logged in, we just say return, which returns nothing. If it is logged in, do nothing. Okay, if it is not logged in, then it will take the, it will say get object login link, then it will go to or.properties. What does this get object do? If you hold control on your Eclipse and click it, it will take to the definition of it. We just wrote this, isn't it? Get object. So it will take the XPath key from where? From or.properties. This XPath key of this login link will be taken, and then we'll click on it. In the same way, we'll get the username box and we'll send keys username into it. We'll get the password box and we'll send keys password into it. Where do we get this username and password from? We are getting it from this do login function. We'll use this do login function somewhere. Okay, right. Then we have this login submit button and we'll click on it, which represents just this page. We'll enter the username. Actually, I'll show it from beginning. So what are we doing? We are clicking on login link. So we are clicking on login link. We are entering the username. So we'll enter the username. We'll enter the password. We'll enter the password and we'll click continue. So it will click continue or submit button and it will log in. That's it. So what is this? So once we log in, you'll see log out. Let me show. So once we log in, we'll log in with the proper username. So how do you know that you logged in? How do you know that you logged in? Because inside you may find something, or you can see this logout thing over here. Then you know that you are logged in, isn't it? So what I did is I took a variable called as logout and I tried to get the text of this logout over here. So I said get object logout link and get text. So if the text is logout, so if I say if the text is logout, then is logged in is true, or else is logged in is false. So not only just logging in, we have to remember whether it is logged in or logged out, isn't it? So once you log in and if inside you find this logout button active, logout text active, then we are setting the variable as true, it is logged in. Otherwise it is not, the login attempt is not successful. Okay, and if something else happens and if it doesn't log in, then it will is logged in is false. That's it. So it will just log in. So now we need to write a test to check whether all of this is working or not. How to write a test? We'll create a new class. We'll call it as login test. What do we write in our login test? We don't need any main or anything. So from here onwards, we'll start using our, what is that? JUnit. You already saw testng, isn't it? Now we'll use JUnit. So it is very much similar. It is entirely the same. So now you will understand why we are using annotations. So this login test also uses all of the driver and everything else, isn't it? So we need to extend this login test also to use test base class. Okay, if you see this image over here, everything is connected to test base class. So everything, all these tests and all, they will inherit from test base class, because the main logic which drives the driver and all and the initialization classes are written in test base class. It is the start point. Okay, afterwards what we have, we have test setup, like we have a before class, before annotation. This before annotation runs before running any of the tests. Oops. So I just wrote a function saying that public void before test, and it will throw exception because we are calling this initialize class from it. Where did we get this initialize class from? So let me write and show you. So what I did is I wrote public void whatever you want you write. I'm writing before test. So before my test begins, I want all this setup to be done. So before test, that's it. And inside it, I'm calling initialize class. Where is my initialize class? Here. Lies. What is my initialize function called as? Test base class. Oh, initialize, isn't it? Okay, initialize, and if you click on it, it will add a declaration to it. Just let it add. So my initial class is ready. So when do I want it to run? Before any test. So there is an annotation called as before. Oops. At the rate before. Okay, and click this one and select. Be careful, don't select test ng. Don't mix the things. Select before from org.junit because you are writing JUnit. So it will call the initialize function in test base class, and all of this will execute, and based on your browser will open the site. So we did not give the site yet, so we'll give the rest of the things now. So your actual test. What do you have in your login test? The actual test. So what are we doing? I just wrote public void login test, and I just opened driver.get property test site name. So it will go to test config.property, and test site name is Gumtree. So it will navigate to Gumtree website. So after that, do login. It will go and click on what is this do login? We just wrote do login, if you remember, testutil.do login. So what we need to do is first add this test annotation from JUnit, and this test util we are only inheriting from test base class, isn't it? But how do we get this test util also to use in this? So we'll import it. You click on it and say import test util. So it will import this package util package, and it will use this test util do login function. If I control click on it, it will take to this function which we wrote, login function. Okay, so yeah, it logged in, and we are checking. If it is not logged in, just print element not found or whatever message you want to give, not logged in or whatever it is. And test util.logout will just remove this logout stuff for now. I'll show you in a bit. That's it. Our test is ready. Our test running in a framework is ready. Now let me right click, run as JUnit test, and it says, and it causes me some failure. I don't know what it is. Java language null pointer login test 20-second line, it is showing me an error. So what do we need to do? We should give line, we should show line numbers and go to 20-second. It is unable to open this website. It is not connecting to the website. Okay, so we need to debug it. What is the reason for it? So how do we debug? Did I show you debugging anytime? No, right? Let us debug. So to debug it, first read the error message. It says login test failed at Java 22. Go to the 20-second line and click on it. You will get this dot. That dot is called as breakpoint. Okay. From there, you can just say, instead of right click, instead of run as, say debug as, and say JUnit test. It will go to debug perspective. So it came to that line and stopped. Here you will have three things: step into, step over, and step return. But you actually need step into and step over so that it will go line by line. So I'll try to go into next line. It won't get all these things because it is WebDriver. I'll show debugging in some other example for you because it is difficult for you to understand. Okay, so we'll go back to Java perspective and we'll see our test base class. So it's calling Firefox or IE or Google Chrome. But what is there in our config.properties? Chrome. So there is nothing called as Chrome in our test base class, isn't it? There is Google Chrome. That's why it's failing. So what we need to do is either change it here or change it there. So let me make it Firefox first in the beginning. So it's always better. Copy it and config.properties. Make it Firefox. Save it. Go to your login test. Right click and run it. Run as JUnit test. So it started to initialize. Good thing to learn programming is you need to learn that debugging, then you know step by step how it is working. So it went into the site, it clicked, it entered, and yes, we came here. So it is working perfectly and it opened in Firefox. So if you want it to be opened in Google Chrome, so what you need to do, go to your config.properties and write Google Chrome over here. Google Chrome and go to your login test, run it. Run as JUnit test, not test ng test, not Java application. So it says starting Chrome driver and it opened in Google Chrome. Username, password, fantastic. Now we'll add the logout functionality as well. So we'll write that function in test util itself. the logout functionality, and we'll call it in login class. So how do we log out? First we need to check whether it is logged in or not. If it is logged in, we'll log out, isn't it? So this is logged in. Okay, let me write in the logged in function itself, or I'll write here. 1, 2, what is this? We need one more bracket. Yeah, but let me see, what is this? This is logout. What is this? This is class. What is this? It's logged. So in logout function, what we are writing is, we are seeing if is logged in. Where is this is logged in written? We are setting this is logged in when we log in. If it is logged in successfully and we see that logout text, we are setting that is logged in to true. If it is not logged in successfully, is logged in will be false. So while clicking the logout button, it will check whether it is logged in or not. Because if it is not logged in, it is useless to log out. It's already logged out, isn't it? So we are checking if it is logged in. Then if is logged in is true. If is logged in is nothing but if is logged in is true. Then do this. So this is short form for if is logged in is equal to true. So you don't need to write it explicitly. If you leave it like this, it believes that if it is true, then do this. Get object logout link and click on it. So now what we'll do is, we'll go to our login test and we'll add one more line here, stating that test util dot why am I not getting any? Am I writing somewhere outside the test util dot logout. Okay, so when I run this, it will log in and log out as well. So it's going into the Gumtree website. It is clicking on login link. It entered username, password, logged in, and now it is logging out as well. So it did not log out, probably because the XPath of this login might be changed. See, it's saying element not found, but the test did not stop. Where did we get this element not found from? Here, because it did not log out. Okay, so what we need to do now to make it possible, we should update the XPath of logout link. So where are we seeing that? In testutil.java, we are just seeing the text of the Gumtree has changed the design now. That's why you're getting that. This was different 2 days back. Now it is different, isn't it? So what we'll do is inspect element. Probably we need the fire path. Why is it not showing any problem? Did we use profiling? Run Firefox free. Yeah, default. Gumtree.com and login. So now this may not be a link over here. So So if I log in, so using Selenium and Agile Tester. Okay, so now the XPath of this is this one. So I'll copy it and update in my or.repository. So logout link has been changed to this one because of the new design. Okay, now we'll run our program. See, logout link has been used in many places. It's been used here and it's been used here, and you may use it in several places. So you don't need to go to each and every place and change the logout link because it is changed now. We just went into OR.properties and we changed so that everywhere wherever it is used, the XPath will be changed automatically. So now I say run as my what happened. Okay, so this one run as JUnit test. Went to Gumtree, logged in, entered username, password, and logged out successfully. Is it okay? So until you practice, I know you won't have any doubts. Once you practice, do you have any immediate doubts right now?
What is it here?
Do you have any doubts at the moment?
No, it looks so complicated.
Okay, so you have to go through it one by one, step by step. Take your time, go through it slowly, and for your convenience, I recorded this class as well. I'll upload it anyway. Yeah, please go through it and please do this stuff. If you're happy until here, we'll move forward. Okay. So let me stop this and send all these things to you. It is not at all complicated because I wrote everything step by step.